McIntyre, Lamoureaux, in our Hendersonville location. Today I'm joined by my friend, Mr. David Lamoureaux, who is a life coach. And appreciate you coming out and being with us today.
Well, thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here. We haven't been connected that long, but the first time I came in here, I mean, I just have a feeling and a sense for people, and you're somebody that I really trust. So, and you really helped me with a couple of things, you know. So it really makes a difference if you can find somebody, because with all the stuff that's going on now, you know, who do you trust? It sounds like it. Wasn't that an old television program? Who do you trust?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
No, that's true. It's true.
But why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, kind of your background?
Oh, well, how much time do we have? I'll be 87 in January, and I've had a great life. I've had a lot of experiences, and I tell people that I'm exceptional. And they say, oh, he's so conceited. But there's a different exceptional. I'm 1 in 10,000. In 1940, and the reason I have the dates is because my aunt kept a diary. But March 19th, 1940, I developed scarlet fever. 3 days later, I developed diphtheria. The combination of the two is 1 in 10,000. 2 days after that, they rushed me to the hospital. I almost died. Thank goodness my uncle gave me several blood transfusions, and it saved my life. And it was at the tail end of that pandemic that started, I guess, around in the 20s. So when this one hit, I started calling doctors. I knew what I had was different than what was going on now, but I wanted to let them know that transfusions really worked. And I'm sure they knew that. But it was sort of, you know, reliving some of this stuff. I'm a slow learner. I've been to several, different schools, but it's been an interesting ride, and I would come up with ideas and just, crazy stuff and just follow through with them, especially, I think, I told you about hitchhiking around the country, and then my buddy and I hitchhiked up to Alaska. We went up there to make our fortune. We ended up working at the salmon canneries for minimum wage, but it was a great trip.
Right.
So I trust some of the stuff that I get, even if I don't like it at the time. There's a lot of things that look negative if you just stay with them. And I've had a lot of people help me. Right. 2004, I had some problems, and I went to a doctor, and I talked to the receptionist, and I said, I'm just here for information. That's all I want. I'm not going to book. She said, oh, I'm so sorry, but there's nobody you can talk to. We're really booked. I said, oh, okay. So I started to leave. She said, wait a minute. She went upstairs and brought down a nurse, and a nurse came down, and she said, oh. She said, the only one that could help you is Dr. Stamman. She said, wait a minute. She went upstairs. She said, we just had a cancellation. A week later, he took care of me and saved my life. So, I trust. Some of the stuff sounds airy-fairy, but it's really true.
Sure. And so I know you've written some books as well.
Well, what's so ironic, I flunked most of my English classes. And whenever I have somebody edit it, they call me the comma man. More commas than anything else. But yeah, I relived some of. My father was an alcoholic, but he was also a neighborhood hero. He was a city fireman. So, I sort of became a trauma junkie. There was always something. When the phone rang, it wasn't that you just won the guess a tune, it was, you always felt somebody had died or whatever. But, and so the book is called Recycling Your Past, and it's for anybody that comes from a dysfunctional, non-supportive family. I'm not a therapist. I've taught a lot of classes on it, but some of us pick certain roles, survival roles, and there's 5 of them, and it's not my idea. It's from a hospital in San Diego, but I do have permission to use the stuff. But we hang on to those. One of them is like the hero, and we all know those, or the scapegoat, or sometimes it's somebody that has really been through a lot of stuff, the lost child. And until we get my point, I don't have all the answers, but my point was that until you deal with those things, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to change or you're going to clear them up totally, but at least you know where they're coming from.
Right, and that's so important. Really understanding where we come from and where we're going to go, and really helping that transition. So I mean that's sounds like a great resource for a lot of people kind of going through a transition period in their life.
Well, my famous quote is our neighbor, Mr. Rogers, who said, "Who we are in the present includes who we were in the past." And it really is true. Some people sort of deny that, but if you step back and look at it and really do some analysis, you'll find out that a lot of that stuff is still with you.
Right.
There's some fun things too. I mean, I talked to some seniors, and I said, "What have you carried over from your childhood that you're still using now?" And they sort of look at me and say, "Well, what have you carried?" I said, I was around before television, so we would listen to the radio and Captain Midnight, and then the Lone Ranger, and you would order a decoder ring, and every day after I ordered that, I'd go to the mailbox. Keep waiting for it. Wait, you know what? I still go to the mailbox every day. Not looking for my decoder ring, but it's just one of those habits. And knowing that, and I laugh at myself a lot. And I think I told you earlier, it's a good thing I dropped stuff. Otherwise, I'd never get any exercise. I'd exercise bending over to pick it up off the floor.
And I know you also served in the Marine Corps.
I was in the Marine Corps. Yeah, I was. I did the 6 months and then the 5.5 years.
Oh.
But I tell people it's true. I said I was the platoon leader on Parris Island at boot camp for 15 minutes. I'm dyslexic, and I was on the parade grounds with the whole platoon, and I kept saying, "By the right flank," and everybody went left. I said, "By the left flank," everybody went right. After about 3 or 4 of those, the DI hauled my you-know-what out of there, put me back in formation. So it was just, crushed me. And the other disappointment that I had, I was a professional model in Chicago for about 8 years. I probably had 100 jobs. But I was in the movie Risky Business when they were filming it.
Oh.
Just when they were filming it. When I sat in the theater waiting for me to come up, I never showed up. And what happened was I was in the breakfast scene, and apparently the sun didn't come up that day or whatever because I changed it to an evening scene.
Right.
But Tom Cruise and his girl were over on one side, and they sat me down, and I had an invisible partner on the other side that would never have been shown, on the camera. But I guess he didn't like what I had to say because I never got the job. But they changed the movie. But I was in a couple others with Chris Christopherson and Milo Thomas and The Tragic Life of Jane Beck.
Right.
And there was another one, All the Sad Young Men, but don't go out for a beer to the kitchen because you'll miss me. I'm only a split second in it, but it was fun.
Well, that's
cool. It's something different.
So I mean, you've really experienced a lot. So you've gone through that trip out west and up to Alaska. You've working your way through there. You've been in the Marine Corps. You've been in the film industry. Has that added a lot to how you can help people with those different experiences?
Yes, my theory is, or my belief system is, if you have an idea, give it a shot, because nobody's been where you've been, and your pain is your pain, and comparisons don't work. There's always going to be somebody supposedly better or whatever. So it's really you against you.
Right.
And when this stuff comes up, you give it a shot and you see what happens. And to me, it's not necessarily that you're going to become a star or your book is going to sell 1 million copies. It's just the fact that you do it and you don't sit on it. And there's so many people with so many great ideas, and some of them are crazy. I'm putting together a little package of what household items do you have that you're using now that are not designated for what you're using them for.
Oh.
And my favorite, and I think the most utilized implement is the scissors in the kitchen. I use it to cut up my Italian vegetables like asparagus
Right.
and spaghetti, and even sometimes if I want small pieces of toast, I use it there. And the other thing that I tell people to try, and I know it sounds crazy, I should hold this to myself so until I contact them, but dental floss.
Oh.
My porch has posts on it, and I wanted privacy.
Sure.
So I've stretched dental floss 3 layers across the pillars, and now the vines are growing up and they're trained, and they've been up for a year and a half, and it really works.
Oh, wow.
And I had ants, and I didn't have anything to kill them with, so I used DW-40, and I haven't seen them since. True story. True story. So,
well, you're very resourceful.
yes. Well, and as a kid, another thing that I started shining shoes when I was a kid, about 11 years old. On the weekends in Chicago.
Right.
Now, here you have like a church on every corner. In Chicago, there's a tavern on the south side in every corner, and some in the middle.
Right.
So I would make the rounds every year, and the bartenders would put up with me. And I could do this was back in the 50s, first part of the 50s,
Sure.
and I'd make $25, $30 at a credit. So and again, how do you know? I mean, I've had jobs. I used to work on the trucks loading up on the docks, and we were right near the stockyards. So the bull haulers would come from Idaho and whatever and go to the stockyards and drop the bulls off. But sometimes they never clean their trucks out.
Right.
And you can imagine what that was like. So on nights, and I don't know how my mother knew right away, but I was within walking distance of the docks. So when I got close, I got on the porch, she'd open the door, take a deep breath, slam the door and say, go in the basement, change, take your clothes off. So as a kid, we have to put up with that stuff, Anyhow, I'm babbling here.
No.
But it's, I think people need to just take some risks. Not something where they're going to, get hurt or whatever, but who knows?
Sure. No, most definitely.
Give it a shot.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that's really great experience, especially to younger individuals who are just either going think about going to college or kind of getting out into their first job. Really seeing what's out there and then really applying what they want to do and what their desires are and really going for it. At that young age can really change their life. And,
Oh, what's the worst thing that could happen? I mean, and I don't look at stuff as failures so much. I look at it as outcomes.
Right.
How many outcomes? I produced a lot of outcomes, but you just get in there and see what happens. And sometimes you got to design your own titles.
Right.
Maybe not just the life coach, but I don't know, grass cutter or shoveling the snow or things like that. But there's a lot of work out there, and then there's a lot of people that need help and need encouragement.
Right.
And that's probably, I say hello to a lot of people, and especially when I'm wearing this. And I don't wear it for me. I wear it for the other, soldiers and Marines. And I just lost two cousins I grew up with. They both had been in service in that. So it's, I think it's important to acknowledge. And again, I did, with my book, I had Celebrating Your Magnificent. I took a section out of the book and I did some research and found out that there was some Marines that were committing suicide that had never been in combat. And a lot of it went back to their childhood and stuff that they were told, they couldn't do or weren't good enough or whatever, or incidents that happened and that they never really worked through. So you're not alone out there, and it's important, I think, to talk to people.
Yes, sir. It's so important, especially people who have a great transition in life, maybe getting a little bit older and getting a little more more mature, you know, it's really important to make sure that you have that support system and that network of individuals you can talk to and you know, at least keep in good communication with to make sure that, you know, during that transition, during those times, or, you know, you're taken care of and there's somebody out who's out there with you and looking there with you.
Especially now,
Right.
with all the stuff that's going on. And I think we need to ask more questions, especially of the, you know, the younger generation. You know, what do you think? You know, and how did you come to that conclusion? It doesn't mean you're wrong.
Right.
You know, it just and we can learn as an adult. I mean, I've learned. I tell people I'm still working on A-Track. I have difficult time with the computers. I found out, I think a week ago, that there's just all these little dots up on the top, and if I press them, I can magnify the screen.
Oh, yeah.
What a revelation! So it's really, and the people at the library have really helped me. They've been,
Right.
you know, except I practically lived there. I wanted to rent a room in the basement down there, but they wouldn't lease it to me. But I'm there a lot. So.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate you coming out today and talking to me a little bit. You have some great resources, and I know people are going to want to contact you and talk to you more about that. So on the screen, we're going to put his contact information. If anybody wants to contact Mr. Lamoureaux and talk more about these issues, he's more than happy to talk to you about that. We'll have that on there. Again, my name is Eric Baker with McIntyre Elder Law. This is the Elder Law Report. If we can help you through your transition as well, our contact information will be on the screen as well. We'll look forward to talking to you again here soon. Thank you very much.
And thank you,
yes, sir,
for the opportunity.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Really appreciate it. This has been exciting for me. It's been a while.
Yes, sir. And I really appreciate you coming out and talking.